Alright guys, all set? Turret? Welcome. In this segment we're going to be talking about distancing. Okay, so distancing is critical, okay, especially in semi-contact free sparring. Because if you don't have the right distance, you may be running into a You may be running into a kick, all right, that your opponent's not controlling. Okay, control is very essential in free sparring. So the idea is that we're throwing a full power technique and controlling it as if I were to let that go, that would do some damage, right? So in other words, a strike like this is not a strike, not a Taekwondo strike, okay? So if you just come in here tapping and expecting to get points, that's not gonna happen, okay? So we wanna be respectful, we wanna acknowledge points. So if I step in and he kicks me, boom, okay? That was a semi-contact. If he were to let that go, it'd probably break my rib, okay? So we don't want that because we want to keep training with our partners, okay? But distancing is a critical component because we're not trying to hurt our opponent. We're using control, okay? But on the other hand, distancing we're also going to use for strategy as if we did want to hurt our opponent, okay? So, or attacker in this case. So this would be more along the lines of self-defense, right? So I've got to understand what my distance is, what my distance is so I can reach, and what his distance is, you know, and since we're about close to the same height, his reach is going to be probably equivalent to mine. Now when you get in a situation where you're fighting somebody taller and you're on the shorter end, you've got a different strategy and your distance is going to be different, right? For example, if Caden were shorter, Mr. Caden were shorter, right? What's his strategy? I'm going to stand up. We're just going to pretend. What's his strategy? He's going to be in close, so when I kick, I'm kicking past, right? And he's using his short weapons, right? I might be punching past. For the taller person with longer legs, my strategy might be keep him at a distance, right? So that he can't get inside in an area where I have to kick past him. I want to use my long weapons, keep him out there so he can't get in and work me over with his hands, okay? So, most of you have been through the red line, green line drill, you know, where if we have a line here and he throws his kick, I know that he can't reach me, okay? And if he can, it's just gonna be just a little motion, right? He can overextend, which is great for me because if he overextends, I'm gonna beat the tar out of him, right? Because he's out of control. Now, so let's see if I can put a noodle here where his foot position would be. So can't see that. Here's his line. Get over there. I think you guys can see that. So there's his line. If he just puts his foot 3 inches over that line, right, he can kick me, okay? If his toes are just 3 inches back, then he's gonna try to kick me. He's having a hard time. So I've really got to pay attention to what this distance is, okay? So if I want to draw him out, I'm gonna get in his kicking range so I can draw him out and then I can counter. Okay, so if I'm gonna, your best time of scoring, folks, is when my opponent's doing something different, right? When there's 3 opportunities on kicking. There's a before the kick counter, there's a during the kick counter, and there's an after the kick counter, okay? So, I'll say maybe before the kick counter would be, he's just sitting there thinking about it, right? Boom, and I back kick him. Okay, so I anticipated his attack. If he were throwing a roundhouse kick, a back leg roundhouse kick, and this would be a during the kick counter, so as he throws it, boom, I'm coming up to his head with maybe an axe kick, okay? And a really good one is an after the kick counter, okay? So he does it, I sucker him out. As he's putting his foot down, right, that's where I'm throwing my kick, whether it's inside, outside, whatever. Because if his feet are moving, he's repositioning, those are opportunities to kick, right? And these are something you have to react to. You just can't think about it and say, okay, when he does that, I'm gonna do this. It's too slow, right? So this is something you have to train and anticipate. So if he's getting set up to kick, right, and he hasn't kicked me yet, because he knows I'm setting him up, right? As soon as I do something like, okay, I'm gonna switch, boom, go ahead and do a fast kick, right? So if I'm in here and switch, boom, okay, I'm gonna get stung because I'm in the air on my switch. He timed that. I'm doing something else. It's really hard if I'm switching or moving my feet. That's why I say, if you're in here, you need to adjust back, right? So it gives them, so you're not adjusting into their range. If you're switching out, if I'm switching out here, that's a great opportunity for a back kick for him, okay? But what you need to know is, what is your hand distance? Okay, so don't block, just keep your, right? So what is your hand distance? Okay, what's your hand distance for a side punch? Jab, cross, okay? What's your distance for a hook? What's your distance for an uppercut? What's your distance for a ridge hand? Okay, what's your distance for a back fist? What's your distance for a back fist to the temple? Okay. This is something you have to train and recognize in yourself and in your opponent, okay? And once you've practiced this enough, guys, when you start free sparring, it's chaos. There's hands and feet flying all over the place, and you can't discern or figure out what's going on. You're just trying to survive. You go into survival mode, okay? And you're just waving your hands around, hoping to make contact and block something, okay? Because it's chaos. But after you do this for a time, usually if you do it a couple times a week for 30 days to 60 days continuously, your mind shifts and things start to slow down and you start to see things you didn't recognize before. And it's not chaotic anymore, it's predictable, okay? So we all have to work through that stage and not give up. We just keep persevering through it, recognizing that our mind will shift at some point, and when it happens, it's magical. Okay, you can start. You're not going to catch everything because this guy's tricky, right? But it won't be chaos anymore. You'll be able to do setups. You'll be able to do, anticipate the attack. You'll be able to do intentional blocks, intentional kicks, not just throwing stuff in the air hoping it lands, okay? But that takes time to develop. The other thing I want to say about distancing just left my mind. You have anything to add? No, second. Okay, so, I know, I was going to go back to when he kicks. Again, when he kicks, puts his foot down is when I can counter, right? And remember, when I throw a kick, what am I gonna do? Follow up with. So I come in, he throws his kick, boom. I'm gonna follow up. That's what he did. He's right. He kicked and followed up with his hand techniques. Okay? So what happens if he kicks? Like he kicks, I block, he follows up with his hand techniques. What do? I back off because I'm intimidated, right? All these hands are coming at me. So I back up. What happens? He keeps chasing me and he's going to get me. Okay? Because now he's put me on my heels. So again, the fighting stance. And we talked about the motion. So when he kicks and starts fighting, right? I'm going to keep my hips moving out of frame. Okay? I'm going to keep my hips moving instead of leaning back on my heels. Guys, when you start going back like this, you're done. Now there are techniques that if you were to kick at my head, that I can keep my head over my hips and hips over my ankles still, okay? In Olympic style, you might even want to actually get out of posture and lean back so you're not loaded on this leg and making it tired. But I'd rather have you understand the concept of shifting your hip and keeping that posture so that you can get back into it when you go, okay? So a lot of similarities between free sparring and Olympic style sparring, and there's a lot of new things introduced in semi-free sparring you're not used to. So practice that distancing, red-green zone, understand how far they need to step over before the kick. Now remember, they should be pivoting when they throw that kick, pivoting on the ball of their foot. So how much room do they gain when they pivot? Right, it's almost a full foot. It's almost a full foot of positioning. Okay, now we'll talk about anticipation in another segment where you're paying attention to their feet, and if they do this, you know they just moved into your zone, okay, and they're ready to do something. So until next time, practice your distancing, get to know, be familiar with it, where your hands are, where your short weapons are, you know, where your ridge hand, your reach weapons, your kicking, what's the distance, okay? And then we'll go into more of the anticipation, when to counter, when to attack, that kind of thing in another segment. So for now, Trip, Kunya, see you next time.